Hey all, in this lesson we are going to be practicing and learning night portrait photography. Now this is a follow-up lesson to the night photography, so if you have not done that, stop, go back, because you need to know the skills from that lesson in order to do this lesson. If you are in a point and shoot camera, you will have this camera preset somewhere on your camera. This is in the majority of the cameras. It is a very common one that they include in cameras, and sometimes it's just a star, sometimes it's a star and a moon with the figure of a person, and that's the setting you're going to be looking for if you are on a point and shoot. Night photo versus night portrait. So what is the difference between the night photography that we learned in the last lesson and the night portrait for this lesson? Both use long exposures or slow shutter speeds to capture low lighting. So that's what's the same with both of them. So that's what you got to go back to the other lesson to learn, or a refresher if it's been a little while since you've done it. However, night portrait uses a flash to also capture things close. And so a couple instances I can think of to apply this would be when we went up to Chicago and we walked out on the Navy Pier at night. We could see the Chicago skyline behind us because we were way out on the pier in the water, and so we'd use the slow shutter speed to get all of that great skyline landscape, and then at the very end of the slow shutter speed we would have a flash to capture the person up close in the photo. Another example might be the a fair where you have rides that are all lit up at night, and so you might have a long shutter speed to capture the fair in the background, and then a flash of light to capture the individual in the foreground. If capturing people, though, you need to prompt them to be sure to be as still as possible. Because this is a long shutter speed and you don't want them to be blurry. If they move at all, they're going to be blurry. And so this makes me laugh. It reminds me of those photos in the 1800s. Those old cameras, they had to have the exposure open for such a long time that people could not move at all. And in fact, you'll note that they don't even smile in those photos. That's because they can't even hold their smile still for that long, and they didn't want the people's faces blurry at all. So they just told them just to, hold their facial expressions with no expression at all, because that was the easiest for them. And that reminds me of this, but you can tell them to go ahead and smile here, and just, it's digital because we can redo it, unlike the 1800s, and you can try it again, but just tell them, be sure to even hold your smile, don't even move your smile. So if you are in a DSLR, you need to find the second curtain setting on your flash in your camera. Now you're going to have to pull out that manual again because every camera is different to be able to find it, but I have a video here to share with you where it is on my camera, and so we're going to go ahead and play this video. Okay, I want to share with you the first and the second curtains on my Canon 40D, and you're going to probably be able to get out your manuals and find this on your DSL cameras also. I am actually in the yellow tab here at the top. It's
it's going to be different for your camera. And then down at the bottom here we have the flash control. So I'm going to go into this setting, and you see I have flash firing enabled, and this second one says built-in flash function setting, and when I click on it I have shutter sync, and you can see I currently have it set to second curtain. I can change that back to first curtain or second curtain, depending on the options I want, as we're going to talk further in this lesson.
Okay, so I'm going to close out this video, and we're going to read a little bit more. That is the video of the second curtain where I find it in mine. But in DSLR, the flash setting for second I need to start over. I'm getting blah 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 blah. Your DSLR, set the flash setting for second curtain for your night portrait. This will take a flash at the beginning of the long exposure and at the end of the long exposure. At least that's what happens in my camera. It may just take one at the end in your camera. I haven't played with enough cameras to know what each one of them actually does and what's more common. But you set it on this to capture the images in the foreground. This is also good with long exposures to capture a blast of a moving subject, and this is something we may do for a lesson down the road. I just wanted to throw it in here to reinforce the concepts. We'll do it if I can get a good photo to example of this, because it seems like a difficult one for me. But like if you want to capture somebody with movement, then you use a long exposure, a long shutter speed to make them blurred to emulate movement, and at the very end you'll do a flash which captures that instant of them moving to give the the clear version of the person. So you have long exposure with blurred, and then on top of that you'll have a clear one, so he's clear, he or she, the moving object, if that makes sense. Be sure to return this setting to first curtain when done. First curtain only takes a flash at the beginning, and this is the most common setting, and I have forgotten to move it back to first curtain, and then later on, a month later, I pull up my flash and I'm like, whoa, what's my camera doing? It's pausing, it's doing weird things, and I have to stop and reflect where that is that I need to set it back. So it's easiest to set it back right away after you're done with it with this, because next time you might miss a photo because you've got your settings wrong. Flash compensation. Remember to utilize the flash compensation which we learned in an earlier lesson. So I'm not going to review that here. You can go back to that lesson if you need a refresher. But too strong of a flash may wash out the face, and too weak of a flash may not be enough light to capture the subject, especially since we're doing night photography. Too weak of a flash might not be good because it's dark outside and you may need more light to brighten it, because there's no natural light brightening it to begin with. And so practice to find the right balance. This is where you need a subject that's patient till you get your camera at the right setting. You may take that photo and say, well, hey, flash is too strong, and then you might need to undo it a little bit more and keep going until you find that good setting. And here is my sample photo. Now, I did not have any subjects available that were people when I was preparing for this lesson, and so I found an object to give you an example of this. and you see the sign here is in the foreground. Now the sign could have been illuminated a little bit more. I think I had my flash compensation all the way up, but I was fairly far away from the subject because this is actually a really huge bridge, and so I think that in order to get this, my flash didn't reach far enough because I wasn't very close actually to this sign. But it gives you an idea that you see this is the bridge in downtown Cape Girardeau, and I was there at the park, and they had this sign about Cape Girardeau and the railroad in front of it. And so this would be another type of instance where you might want to capture something in the foreground as well as in the background and it not be a person. There might be lots of instances like this. That is it for this lesson, and I hope you are able to find something creative to share with this lesson, to take a photo of. Get it, the creativity in finding that that thing to photograph that fits this is because it doesn't have to be a person, but it can be a person. But that fits this is going to be what makes this lesson fun when we all begin sharing photos, and I look forward to seeing what you can do.